Welcome to the final episode of Chapter 5. And oh boy, is this one a doozy. This is a defining moment for many, many people at Come As You Are. And it happens under the cloak of darkness. New Year's Eve, we are getting ready to ring in 2020. And Brandi and I are about to blow up the church.
Not literally.
Not literally. Yeah. Not literally.
Faith can feel like hearts and butterflies until someone lights a match and burns it all to the ground. Welcome to the Burning Butterflies podcast.
The sad thing is that there's abuse of every kind within the church. But the spiritual abuse is the stuff that just
What's a place there shouldn't be abuse? Like, there just shouldn't be abuse in a place that claims to.
Well, it ruins your soul. If you're new here, we suggest listening to our prologue episode first.
This is the story of two women's journey through toxic church culture and spiritual abuse, all while finding healing in the end.
Sometimes it's just the facts, and if you get offended by it, that's a you issue. And if we can't be mature enough to have these conversations, even if some of the topics are difficult, then shame on us.
But we're about to spill some tea that
it's going down.
Yes. We have set the stage that there are some people who are not 100% on board with Amanda being paid by the church, are not 100% on board with Brandi and I and all of that. We have the beer ministry couple and, people who are still active in that, family's life and, still hang out with them and, do the beer ministry stuff. And then we have the Griswolds who attempted to go and spend money they felt that they had in their ministry funds. And it turns out that money was no longer there. We have people starting asking questions. Why does Amanda have all this information on people, and why does she need to know it? People are mad. They're going to Tom and asking him, why does Amanda have all this information? Tom's not going to say, because I tell her to go and gather all this information for me. Charlotte, and it's not just me. They're mad at Brandi too. And they're going to Charlotte over Brandi. And, Charlotte's not going to say, because I've asked Brandi to do this. Brandi had a yellow legal pad. She would write down all of her notes, and then she would go and have meetings with Charlotte, or Charlotte would call her. There'd be times where they would have, 2 hours on the phone marathons where Brandi would have to download all of this information to Charlotte. So essentially, Brandi and I have become Tom and Charlotte's spies, their henchmen. And they're not going to tell people that, so they blame it on us. We're nosy. We're bossy. We're too much. We feel like we need to be in charge. So there's that. There was one specific family that is very, very upset. There were some inappropriate things that had happened in the youth group. We discussed that on Patreon. So if you're interested in that story, you can go over there. But they are asking questions of Tom about that. The question is, how did we afford to go to Georgia? Tom throws me as far under the bus as he can huck me and says, well, I don't know. It's all Amanda's idea. Amanda decided to go to this conference. Amanda decided what we were doing.
Deflection. You never answer the question, but get them mad at a common enemy like you.
Yep.
Not how did we afford it? Not Amanda paid for it, but it was Amanda's idea. That's not answering the question, sir.
Yes. What happened to all the money? that the Griswolds had for their ministry.
Yep.
Where did all that money go? Why couldn't they buy the plates and the stuff? What happened to all that money? And ultimately, all of this comes down to they start asking the questions: who holds Tom accountable?
Yep.
Because Tom can blame it on me, or he can blame the accounting on Lori, or he can blame, the stuff that went on in the youth group on the youth leaders or on the parents of the kids. And he can blame, stuff that goes on in women's ministry on Brandi. But ultimately, Tom is the decision maker. Tom is the one who decides who's in charge of what ministries. And so these people start asking, who holds Tom accountable? This opens a big can of worms. Like the biggest can. And Tom decides to play defense. And Tom calls me and Brandi into his office and tells us that the beer ministry wife wants to leave the church, and she and her husband have made the decision that they are leaving the church because of me and Brandi. And they are going to leave this church unless Brandi and I pull ourselves together and show the love of Christ to these people and stop being petty and stop being, anything that you can think of in scripture that has to do with gossip or being bossy or needing your own way or being sinful or being selfish. All of those verses are thrown at us. And we are like, WTF. This is the first time we're called in and told this. This time we do not tell our husbands that this is what is said, because we are convinced that we are the problem. And so I call a couple of people and I apologize, and they kind of react in a weird way of okay. And Brandi tries to talk to the beer ministry wife, and she gets blown off. And so her and I are like, well, this is really weird. So we demand with Tom that we can sit down with them. And he's like, well, no, if you apologize to them, if that's on them. So we kind of dust our feet of it, right? We move on. The Griswold wife, Helen Griswold, does hair. That's kind of her day job. And so Brandi goes to her to get her hair done. And why Brandi is in there, Clark Griswold comes in and starts bringing all of this stuff up to Brandi. All of those questions that I just said, he starts asking Brandi. How did you guys pay to go to Georgia? What happened to all my money with this? Who holds Tom accountable? Why do you girls have all this information? Who's asking you to do this? And he starts asking these very pointed questions. And Brandi is answering in the Kool-Aid drinking way. She knows the drill. She knows the mantra. She repeats it. Clark Griswold is not having it. He's pushing. And finally, he tells Brandi that they are going to call for a vote. They're putting together a group of people who basically they're staging a coup. They are putting together a group of people. They are going to go to Tom with a list of grievances and say, we demand that you be held accountable to these things, or we are going to vote you out. And even then, even when he put it that way, Brandi and I still felt like it was about us. In that moment, even though he said, we have a list of grievances against Tom, we have people who have grievances against Tom, we're talking to other people, and invited Brandi to join the group with grievances against Tom, Brandi and I still felt like all of this was because they were mad at us.
Yeah.
So she leaves the salon and she calls me and she's like, this is what was just said. We have the conversation. We feel like it's about us, but ultimately, like, Tom, they're mad at Tom. Right? So we go back and forth a little bit of what we should do. That night, Brandi doesn't sleep. She's up. She is like physically sick over this of what to do. So her and I already had plans. My family was going to go over to her house anyway, and we were going to spend New Year's Eve together. Just our two families, hang out, let the kids play and, that kind of stuff. And we were going to do dinner together. And so we show up over there New Year's Eve, and her and I are still like, what do we do? What do we do? Like, do we tell Tom and Charlotte? Do we not tell Tom and Charlotte? Do we, like, is this something like we need to tell Pastor O'Reliable? Like, what do you do? Because we know this information, but we are still wanting to protect Tom. And I can't really speak for Brandi. I know the conversations we had at that time, but I can tell you for me personally, I felt like these people were mad at me and they were taking it out on Tom for allowing me to be in ministry and allowing me to work in the office. And I felt mad at them of like, if you're so mad at me, just come talk to me about it. Why do you have to go around behind my back? And why do you have to bring Tom into this? Like, I was kind of pissed off about that, right? And so we sit down, we explain the situation to our husbands, and we're like, here's what's being said. Like, they are full on gonna stage a coup. And we had a list of people that they had given. Like, they had called old people who had left because they were upset. Of like, hey, we're going to do this. They had a list of people who were still at the church who were upset. So I can only imagine Corey and Topanga were on that list. I can imagine Etheridge was on that list. I can imagine DJ and Steve and Beth Moore. And, all of these people are on this list that have grievances against Tom. And the more I think about it, the more mad I get, because I'm like, I'm going to say this, and I want to remind everyone that this is my mindset on New Year's Eve 2019 going into 2020. This is not my mindset now, so I do not want to find a soundbite of myself somewhere saying this. I want to make this clear. My mindset at that time was, this man is a man of God, and he has done all of these things. He faced adversity at this Baptist church, and no one saw his calling from the Lord, and he had the guts enough to stand up and to start this church and to speak for the Lord. And he's faced all of this backlash. He has people in the community who claim to be, men of the Lord, who are leading other churches, who are opposing him. He's being attacked by people, his character's being called into question and all of these things. And he's done all of this, and he is just trying to serve the Lord to the best of his ability. And people are taking his humanity and using his humanity against him, because humans cannot be perfect and everyone will sin and fall short of the glory of God. But he has a new life in Jesus. And yes, he falls and stumbles sometimes, but that is why we are the church, and we should help him up and build him up. And we should not be these people that are attacking him. And we should be the ones who are working so diligently to make his job as a pastor a joy and not a burden. Like, I was so angry just thinking about the fact that they were so ungrateful.
Yeah. But you know what's crazy about that is like word for
The
word.
whole thing.
That
The
too.
whole thing.
Well, that too. But if you had to write down a script of the programming that we were all given, you just verbatim recited it, because even though, and that's the part that I really feel like when you say things like I'm in a high control religion and I'm in a cult, or like these people are, like when you talk about the toxicity that we've talked about in attending Come As You Are, I think on some level, like, you think like there's somebody up on stage reciting that you will believe this, and like the people are in the pews saying, we believe in you, almighty leader, and that you are been persecuted and that we will follow you regardless, like all of these things. But what you said word for word was years and years of conversations and years of sermons and years of behind closed doors ministry meetings and years of being conditioned to respond in such a way that these are your beliefs. And what you said word for word is exactly word for word what I would have thought in that moment, and I would have said. It's exactly what Brandi would have thought and what Brandi would have said. It's exactly what countless of other people said over and over and over again at Come As You Are, word for word. Not because somebody printed us a script and asked us to memorize it and to honor it, and this is what you need to do if you belong here, but because of the years and years of conditioning, one meeting at a time. One, oops, don't look back there. This is what we really mean, being told that, you know, it's sick and it's twisted, but universally, like word for word, what you said, I'm like, I would have used that exact same language. I would have said those exact same things. I would have had those same thoughts, and I would have felt the same way.
Yeah. And you're right. It wasn't like Tom didn't stand on stage and say, I'm going to tell you this, and this is the truth, and you need to believe this.
Yeah.
He would give a sermon. Well, you know, this is how I started, and look what God has done for me. And then, you know, he would.
And I'm just out here trying to turn people to Jesus. And, you know, Jesus was persecuted. Paul was persecuted. I'm being persecuted.
Yep, it's little comments he would make in Bible studies or on a Tuesday morning prayer. And then you hear that, so then you repeat it. So then other people are saying it. So then you pick it up. Why do you think Brandi knew half the crap she knew about that church? It wasn't because she was there. It wasn't because she lived it. It's because I said it and she repeated it.
Yeah.
It got to the point where Tom forgot she had only been there for a handful of years.
Yeah.
He forgot she wasn't there since the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, and here I am, the person who would come and be like, well, don't you remember Tom would be this? And I'd be like, don't recite the dark magic to me, which I was there when it was written.
Yeah.
Like, that was who I was.
Yeah.
And I said things, and other people said things with such passion and conviction that other people took it on as their truth also.
Yep.
So I get myself worked up, and I'm dirty pissed. Like, I'm mad. Brandi is so conflicted because Brandi likes to put off this air that, like, you F with me, I'll write you off, I don't care. I can walk away and I can never talk to someone again, and I don't care. Deep down, she cares. And the reason I know this is because I watched her in this moment. She hadn't been close friends with the beer ministry wife in years. They had their round and rounds. She wrote her off. She said, I'm done with her, whatever, all this stuff. She was convicted. Because in that moment, she was like, if I tell Tom I am betraying their trust in me. Because when it comes down to it, you have this mentality in her of like, I'm ride or die until you do something to wrong me, and then I can write you off. But at the end of the day, I'm not a snitch. I'm not going to go and I'm not going to spill all your secrets, right? And so it was like this. I don't want to be a snitch. I don't want to betray what they said to me, because are we still close friends? No, but I'm not. She felt that conviction about betraying them. But on the other hand, it's Tom. And do you not tell Tom that someone is staging a coup?
Yeah.
Do you not do that? So we sat there and we had a discussion with our husbands. And ultimately, Brandi and I called Charlotte and we asked them what they were doing, and we asked if we could meet with them. And they asked where we were and what we were doing. And it was decided that it was better for them to come to Brandi's house and not to do it at the church.
Yeah.
So that we could guarantee privacy.
Right. Because at the end of the day, like, just to remind everybody of the knowledge that you had at this time, they had enough ammunition and backing to take Tom down.
Yes.
Like, this was in the moment, like, as serious as it gets.
Yeah.
It is never, I mean, people have gotten mad, people have left the church, people have threatened things, but this is like the first time that people legitimately brought receipts and had, like, they were ready, locked in and ready to go. And it was a real threat that there would be a vote. And if that vote happened, because all this stuff, we've already been through all this with like Young Gun and all of this, and you already know, and they have posed enough of a threat that on a holiday, on New Year's Eve, you call and you guys have to get together. It's that serious to warn them about this threat that's coming in to take down Tom.
Yep. So we send the kids to the basement. Very rarely would we send our kids and just be like, play video games, do whatever you want. We don't care. Don't come upstairs. Like, very rarely would we do that. It would be like, okay, you have 20 minutes on video games, then you need to go outside and play. Like, that's how Brandi and I parented. This was very, very much, we don't care what you do. Do not fight with each other. Take water, you could take snacks downstairs. Brandi never allowed them to take food and drinks downstairs, and we allowed them to do it. And they were like, oh my gosh, are you serious? Like, are you guys, we could take the bag of chips downstairs. Like, they were so freaking excited, right? So we send the kids downstairs. Tom and Charlotte come over and we sit in Brandi's living room and we spill it all. We say, look, you told us they were upset with us. We apologized. This is what was said to Brandi. And in that's when I start like replaying all of that narrative, that speech, that like how mad I was. I start replaying it in my head. And I'm the kind of person that like very rarely will I get upset and cry because you hurt my feelings. It's really, really hard to hurt me at my core enough to make me cry. Typically, if I'm in an argument or I'm in a heated situation with someone and I cry, it is because I am so mad that like I'm trying to hold my anger in and it's like escaping through my eyes. Like that's like why I'm crying, right? And so I'm crying because I'm mad and I'm like shaking because I'm so mad thinking about all of this stuff. Look at what this church has done for you. This one couple, you were on the verge of divorce and this church saved your marriage. This couple, your son died and we were there for you. And I am so mad at every single one of those people. And I'm shaking and I'm crying. And Charlotte looks at me and she goes, I can tell this hurts your soul. And for the first time, I didn't sugarcoat anything with Charlotte. This is the first time I never I would tell Tom, no, I'm mad. You are making me so mad right now. Like, I'm not crying because you're being mean to me and you're hurting my feelings. I'm crying because I want to punch you in the face. Like, I could say that to him. I've never said anything like that to Charlotte. And I looked at her and I said, I'm not sad. I'm pissed off. And Tom looks at me and he goes, me too.
Oh my goodness.
And so they asked for names. We gave them the names of the people we knew for sure. They asked specifically, are Corey and Topanga a part of it? We said we don't know for sure, but we suspect. We have suspicions. And so they asked a few people and we would be like, yes, they are, or no, they're not. Right. He asked about Chimney and his wife. And I said, no, they're not a part of it. He asked about a few other people. He asked if you and Froggy were approached, and we said no. And he goes, well, I knew Froggy wouldn't have been because he would have told me. And so we were like, what do we do? Like, what do we do? And Tom, I remember in the moment, being like, wow, he's such a great leader. But he sat there and he's like, if this is what it's going to come to, let them come. Well, let them come. Because we know that the Lord is on our side. And just like the Lord protected Israel, and gave all of these, examples, God protected the Israelites by parting the Red Sea. And, God had them march around Jericho and the walls fell. And, and God, told Mary and Joseph, you need to flee with Jesus so that Herod couldn't come kill the baby. And just like in all of those instances, God will protect us and God will protect this church because we are doing God's work. And those who are the enemies of the Lord, what's in the darkness will come to light. And, and basically we're like, we stand on the promise that God called us to do this and he will protect us. And so then we invited them to stay for New Year's Eve. And they said, oh, no. Charlotte's like, oh, no, dear. I think it's late enough for us. And it was 8:00 at this point. I think this is late enough for us. I think we're going to head home. But you guys stay and you enjoy your evening. Okay. So they left. It was a very somber New Year's. The kids had the time of their lives because all of the adults were so upset over this whole meeting and this whole conversation that we just were like, whatever you want to do, we don't even care. They got to eat all the snacks in the basement. They got to eat all the ice cream. They got to it was basically can we play Just Dance? We don't care. Can we do this? We don't care. And we had a very somber New Year's. And I think at 10:00, we were like, okay, we're going to call it. And we went home. And that night, it was pretty late too. It was after I had gone home. So it was after 10. Charlotte sends a text message. And it says, you are invited to a Come As You Are family New Year's celebration. only for Come As You Are family. You are invited to come to Tom and Charlotte's house on New Year's Day for brunch. And we are going to celebrate this new chapter and these new beginnings. And we are celebrating the new year, thanking the Lord for all he has done. And so I went. I think a couple of my kids went with me. My whole family didn't go. I think Brandi came, but her boys and Jason, I don't think they came either. But we show up, and there is a bunch of Come As You Are people that are there, and we spend the whole day, eating snacks and having brunch and playing board games. And I walked in, and Charlotte was just like, it almost seemed like she was like emotionally drained. And she's like, it is so wonderful that you are here and that you have come to celebrate, because it is a day of celebration. And I was like, okay. But Tom sat upstairs.
Yeah.
And so a couple of the older guys went upstairs and sat with Tom. But even like most of the men were downstairs, like in their game room and stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, they had a movie going on their like home theater, and they had video games set up for the kids and stuff like that. But yeah, it was really weird because it was like this. I guess like knowing what I know now, it probably wasn't so weird. Like
Yeah.
it was a family celebration. Well, where was Tom when at all of your family functions? He was sitting on the couch
watching TV.
Yeah, so he was upstairs watching TV, and a couple of the old men went up with him, and everyone was downstairs having a good time. And none of the people who were confirmed to be on the coup list were there.
Yeah.
And I cannot tell you what Tom and Charlotte did specifically when they left Brandi's house that night.
Yeah.
But it was very apparent that next day that they were no longer in fear of a vote. They were no longer in fear of a coup. And it was like it had all disappeared.
Yeah. That's so interesting.
Do you have anything else to add to that?
No. Like it's like it's so interesting to put yourself back into a place of like, I mean, like you said, like it's hard to tell these stories without the like, this is weird, like, because it wasn't weird, which is what's weird.
Yeah.
Is that like I don't know what we were doing. I don't remember being there.
I don't remember you there. I don't even remember like Froggy or your kids being there.
No, like not at all. And then I'm like, did we go somewhere for like, were we in California that year? I don't know. I don't know. I'd have to go look it up, but that's too much work, and it doesn't really pertain to the story. I'm like,
does it move the story along?
But like that's what's weird about it, is that wasn't weird, and that is weird. Mm-hmm. But like to be so like, there's questions like now me would ask, and be like, why aren't you upset? Like,
yeah,
like just how you thought and were led to believe that this was the Holy Spirit living in this man, and this woman, giving them strength, and their assurance is in the Lord. And to know now what garbage that is. Right? And so like, as this all unfolds, and I mean, if we haven't convinced you yet, like I'm not out here to convince you, but Honestly, if I haven't convinced you yet, like if we haven't convinced you yet of the insanity and the toxicity and just the fact that Charlotte would use language like, I can see that you are upset to your soul. Like, this is what we're talking about, is people's lives, not just like, oh, I went to a store and I got ripped off, right? Like, okay, you're mad about that for, I mean, you could be mad about stuff like that for, I'm never going back to that store again. I'm so mad, right? But this isn't like your life being. Like,
Yeah.
the fact that McDonald's never has ice cream because, I don't even know why they have it on their menu. Like, they should just take it off because they never have
Yeah.
it, because it's always being cleaned or broken, or they just, I don't know. I can't figure it out. Like, as much as that, like, I can be mad at McDonald's because I can't get a hot fudge sundae.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's not wrecking me to my being, to my core.
Yeah.
But this type of manipulation.
Yeah. You're not losing sleep. You're not physically upset over it.
Right.
Like, it's not giving you headaches. It's not giving you stomach aches.
Right.
Like,
But to be so misguided and misled that these people are filled with a supernatural power
yeah.
that allowed
And-
them to continue on and host people at their house in the face of adversity.
Yes. And it was like when they left, they even were like, thank you. We understand how difficult this was for you to tell us. And we want to thank you so much. You did the right thing and you stood on principles and you showed that you are women of integrity and of the Lord.
Yeah. Wow. So, okay, let me ask you then, like try to put yourself back into like that moment of like knowing that the people that you outed weren't there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, did you have any thoughts about that, or did it just like, I would understand if it didn't phase you either, or if you had thoughts about it. Like,
Well, I
can
thought, like,
understand if
I
you're
wondered, like, did they get invited
and they didn't show up.
and they didn't show up? But it wasn't like Charlotte.
So you
Charlotte
didn't
did
think,
things.
oh, they didn't invite them.
Well, in that moment, I thought, I kind of like looked around and I thought, these are all the people who, when all of the dust settles, this is who's going to be left
Yeah.
here at Come As You Are. Because Charlotte would do things deliberately. Like, she would send mass texts and you could see everyone on the text message.
Yeah.
Like, good Lord, those women's ministry text messages with all like the maximum amount of people that you were allowed to send in a mass group chat, Charlotte would max that out with women's ministry. And I mean, goodness, there were times where it was like, you're trying to go to bed and it's like 9:30 at night and some old lady's like, good night, ladies, and puts a Bible verse. And so then every other old lady would have to be like, good night, love you, sisters, pray hand emoji, like all the things.
Yeah,
And
you're
it's
trying
like,
to go to sleep and
God,
then
just shut
you're like,
up. Just shut up.
yeah, one
You
person
know?
texted and then it was just a domino popcorn effect.
Yes. And so Charlotte would put out information on those like it was nothing. So it was enough that I took notice that I personally got an individual text from her. It was not a mass group chat text.
Okay.
It was an individual text. And so I assumed, and I was cognizant enough at the time to assume, that everyone there had also received, yes.
Yeah.
And my thought was some of those people that were riding the fence that we suspected of being a part of the coup, but we did not know for sure. I remember thinking, I bet they got invited as a way of seeing, will they show up?
Oh, okay.
So I, as delusional as I was, that Tom is this great leader and how dare they do this to him, and our church is the best ever, and they're just terrible people. As much as I was drinking the Kool-Aid in that, I had the clarity of mind enough to see the manipulation that was the New Year's Day party.
Right. Well, which I mean would make sense because you would assume they would do something.
Yeah.
Like you just told them somebody's trying to take them down out of their church seat of power. So you would imagine, like I would imagine, and I'd imagine that they would be okay with that. Like that would be okay.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
it would be justified for them to do. You're like, oh, this is smart. Yes, let's get people together because you know that there's something going on. So I mean, it makes sense. And it makes sense why you wouldn't question it. Like,
And it's not like that day they were going around and they're like, "You're Team Tom, right? You're Team Tom, and have you heard anything about a coup?"
yeah. No,
Like,
they don't do that.
no, it was all positive. It was
Yeah.
all joyful. It was
Yeah.
all family.
Nobody joins a cult.
Nope.
Like at the end of the day, nobody joins a cult.
Burning Butterflies is a listener-supported podcast. Today's episode was brought to you by our amazing supporters on Patreon.
Follow the link in our show notes to learn how you can become a Patreon supporter too. Supporters get exclusive access to bonus content each month, including outtakes, cut content, and supporter-only episodes. If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave us a rating on your listening platform.
Burning Butterflies is a production of Asha Media. Thank you for listening.